Donald Trump's recent press conference in the Oval Office regarding the partial release of Jeffrey Epstein files last Friday represents perhaps one of the most consequential and revealing moments in the ongoing saga surrounding Epstein, his networks, and Trump's own associations, as it exposed a series of statements and admissions that appear, on the surface and on review, to contradict long-standing public claims and to implicate Trump in both personal and political entanglements with Epstein, while simultaneously attempting to recast himself as a victim of media and political attacks, a framing which collapses under scrutiny given the depth of documentation, the extent of internal communications, and the sheer volume of references to Trump. Over 38,000 references across 5,000 documents within the Epstein files, revealing a pattern of interactions, connections, and financial dealings that cannot easily be dismissed, all unfolding against the backdrop of a Department of Justice release of approximately 3 million documents, which represents only a fraction of what investigative sources and court filings suggest maybe as many as 50 million pages still unreleased, pointing to a decades-long, highly complex network involving Epstein, Trump, and other high-profile figures, including Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, and Michael Wolff, who was identified by Trump himself as conspiring with Epstein to damage Trump politically, a claim that Trump used repeatedly as a shield for his own denials of friendship or complicity with Epstein, while simultaneously framing the partial release of documents as vindication, even as public reporting and document analysis reveal that Trump was deeply entangled with Epstein, traveling on his plane, visiting his properties, and conducting business and social interactions that, according to FBI 302 reports, informant statements, and internal communications, suggest a personal familiarity and sustained relationship that Trump repeatedly attempted to minimize or deny during the press conference and subsequent social media posts. In the course of the press conference, Trump attempted to distance himself from Epstein's island, referring to it as Jeff multiple times, a familiarizing term that, intentionally or not, contradicts claims of limited or superficial knowledge, while also claiming that he never visited the island and that Epstein somehow brought it to Mar-a-Lago, in a statement that strains credulity given the volume of corroborating evidence indicating Trump's repeated presence at Epstein properties, participation in social events, and interactions with individuals known to have been part of Epstein's trafficking and exploitation networks. A discrepancy that has raised questions among legal analysts and journalists regarding the credibility of Trump's statements and the potential legal and political consequences of such public declarations, particularly as they intersect with ongoing investigations and the handling of sensitive documents by the DOJ. In addition to these claims, Trump attempted to construct a narrative in which Democrats and associated individuals were responsible for purported conspiracies involving Epstein and Michael Wolff, framing himself as a target of politically motivated schemes, a framing which ignores the overwhelming documentary evidence showing that Trump was not only aware of Epstein's activities, but actively engaged in social, business, and financial exchanges with him, including the use of private planes, personal correspondence, and joint appearances, all of which suggest a deeper connection than Trump's public statements acknowledge, and which complicates his attempts at legal or public exoneration, particularly in light of filings indicating that multiple documents involving Trump and Epstein were altered, deleted, or withheld from public release, including materials that contain highly incriminating allegations, further intensifying scrutiny on Trump and his administration for attempts to manage or manipulate the disclosure of evidence, a process which legal experts argue could constitute obstruction or interference with judicial processes and ongoing federal investigations, as part of his defense and narrative control. Trump also claimed that he would pursue legal action against Trevor Noah, the host of the Grammys, over a joke referencing Trump's connection to Epstein's island, again seeking to frame himself as a victim of media bias and unfair targeting, while simultaneously asserting that the DOJ's release of 3 million pages of documents exonerated him, a claim which is contradicted by analysis of the released materials, which contain extensive references to Trump and detailed accounts of his interactions with Epstein, highlighting discrepancies between Trump's public statements and the factual record, and raising questions about his motivations in both responding to media coverage and managing public perception, particularly as legal and investigative professionals continue to analyze the documents for indications of misconduct, criminal exposure, and civil liability, all of which place Trump in a highly precarious legal and political position. Moreover, Trump's statements regarding his lack of involvement with Epstein, repeated assertions of innocence, and attempts to shift blame to other political figures, including Democrats and specific journalists, must be understood in the context of his broader pattern of reactive communications, including a flurry of social media posts in which he reiterated claims of non-involvement, described Epstein and Wolf as conspirators against him, and attempted to cast the ongoing scrutiny as a partisan attack, a strategy consistent with his historical approach to crises, but one which increasingly faces credibility challenges given the weight of documentary evidence, the volume of FBI and informant reports, and the detailed references to Trump across multiple files and filings, a body of evidence that suggests sustained engagement and familiarity with Epstein far beyond what Trump's statements would admit. The press conference also revealed Trump's attempt to conflate unrelated legal or political issues with the Epstein files, including claims about Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, renovations at the Kennedy Center, and alleged investments from the Abu Dhabi royal family into Trump-owned entities, all framed as distractions or administrative challenges, while reinforcing his self-portrayal as overextended, highly capable, and unfairly targeted, a rhetorical strategy that seeks to normalize legal scrutiny and media reporting as part of a broader pattern of partisan obstruction or malfeasance by others, while simultaneously undermining the coherence and credibility of his own narrative. As multiple investigative reports and filings contradict Trump's claims regarding knowledge, involvement, and financial oversight, particularly in relation to the Abu Dhabi investment, which involved hundreds of millions of dollars, placement of family members and associates on corporate boards, and access to classified semiconductor technology, a transaction that raises significant national security concerns, legal exposure, and questions about conflict of interest, oversight, and ethical compliance that remain under review by independent investigators, Congress, and federal prosecutors, highlighting the intersection of private business dealings, foreign influence, and presidential authority in ways that complicate Trump's attempt to cast himself as a neutral or uninvolved party in ongoing controversies. Throughout the press conference, Trump's commentary repeatedly juxtaposed personal grievances, media criticism, and alleged political conspiracies with claims of innocence, framing himself as both a victim and a rational actor, while simultaneously issuing veiled threats of lawsuits, public attacks on journalists, elected officials, and co-sponsors of the Epstein Transparency Act, such as Thomas Massie, and repeated denials of association with Epstein, despite voluminous evidence to the contrary, creating a narrative in which his public persona as an aggrieved, besieged former president is reinforced, even as investigative journalists, legal analysts, and public records continue to demonstrate substantive engagement with Epstein, including shared travel, financial interconnections, social interactions, and strategic communications with key figures like Steve Bannon, who himself appears extensively in the Epstein files discussing Trump-related matters and providing strategic coordination for political and business initiatives in conjunction with Epstein, highlighting the broader network of influence, complicity, and coordination that Trump seeks to minimize or obfuscate in his public statements. The cumulative effect of Trump's press conference, social media activity, and public statements regarding the Epstein files, Trevor Noah, Federal Reserve investigations, Kennedy Center renovations, and Abu Dhabi investments creates a complex mosaic of self-serving narratives, legal deflection, and public relations management, which can be analyzed across multiple dimensions, including factual accuracy, legal exposure, political strategy, and the intersection of personal and public interests, all of which have implications for ongoing investigations, litigation, and public trust, while also providing insight into the methods by which Trump and his associates attempt to influence, control, or preempt media reporting, public perception, and judicial review, raising fundamental questions about accountability, transparency, and the limits of executive influence over legal processes. Moreover, the actions of the DOJ in releasing millions of pages, while still withholding potentially tens of millions more, underscores the ongoing tension between transparency and confidentiality, public interest and personal privacy, investigative integrity and political pressure, and highlights the need for careful legal oversight, protective measures for victims and survivors, and rigorous documentation and analysis to ensure that sensitive information is neither destroyed nor manipulated, as evidenced by reports of document deletion, selective release, and inadvertent exposure of victim identities, leading to emergency motions filed by attorneys representing survivors to protect their privacy and safety, actions which have prompted judicial intervention, including the scheduling of conferences and review by federal judges to enforce compliance with protective orders, monitor disclosure practices, and maintain accountability for both governmental and private actors involved in handling the Epstein files, a process that reflects the intricate balance between legal procedure, victim protection, and public transparency in high-profile cases involving sexual exploitation, trafficking, and potential political and financial misconduct. Simultaneously, Trump's focus on peripheral issues, such as social media posts about Steve Bannon, commentary on the Grammys, criticism of Thomas Massie, and complaints regarding the management of Federal Reserve facilities, must be understood as part of a broader strategy to distract, reframe, and reassert authority, while minimizing acknowledgement of substantive allegations, associations, and documentary evidence linking him to Epstein, a strategy that, while rhetorically consistent with Trump's historical approach to controversy, faces increasing challenges due to the comprehensive and publicly available body of documents, the sheer scale of references implicating him, and the ongoing investigative and judicial scrutiny, highlighting the tension between political messaging and evidentiary accountability in high-stakes legal and ethical contexts. In analyzing the entirety of Trump's statements, actions, and the surrounding media coverage, it becomes clear that the press conference and subsequent social media activity reveal not only an attempt to control narrative and mitigate personal liability, but also significant gaps, contradictions, and selective omissions that invite scrutiny from journalists, legal experts, and the public, as the cumulative documentation, including emails, travel records, witness statements, and DOJ filings, paints a far more complex and connected picture of Trump's interactions with Epstein, his associates, and related financial and political networks than his public statement suggests, creating a landscape in which public perception, legal accountability, and political strategy intersect in highly consequential ways, influencing ongoing investigations, potential civil and criminal liability, and the broader national discourse regarding power, privilege, and accountability. Ultimately, the press conference serves as a microcosm of the broader challenges posed by Trump's relationship with Epstein, including the tension between public narrative and documentary evidence, the intersection of personal, political, and financial interests, the ongoing risk to victims and survivors, and the implications for legal accountability and democratic oversight, illustrating persistent need for investigative diligence, legal transparency, and critical public engagement, as the nation continues to grapple with the legal, ethical, and political ramifications of the Epstein files, the Trump administration's responses, and the broader networks of influence and complicity that these documents reveal, a process that will continue to unfold as additional documents are released, court proceedings advance, and public scrutiny intensifies, shaping the national conversation around power, accountability, and justice in the 21st century.